Hi, I'm Jarek.
Hi, I'm Lorna.
We're going on a journey to discover the legacy of the American Legion
and how that history of the Legion is shaping the vision for our future.
Okay, let's go exploring.
Let's do it. This country's just beautiful. Take me on country road.
Early on, the American Legion established a unique ability to identify problems faced by veterans and solve them by working with government through the democratic process.
Within the organization's first year, American Legion members studied and became experts in the complexities of helping their fellow veterans apply for disability benefits and the few health care services available to them.
But the services were difficult to understand. They were often out of date and inefficient. Veterans needed expert advice and assistance from their fellow veterans. So, the American Legion developed and trained a nationwide network of service officers to help veterans and their families plow through the paperwork and apply for what relief was available to them.
The American Legion was only 9 months old when it achieved its first major victory for disabled veterans. In December of 1919, the House of Representatives invited leaders of the fast-growing new veterans organization to a dinner on Capitol Hill. By this time, the American Legion was pushing 700,000 members and making headlines across the country.
The first-year Legionnaires, led by newly elected National Commander Franklin D'Allier, gladly accepted the dinner invitation. But along the way to dinner, they stopped off at Walter Reed Army Hospital to pick up a few of their friends, a group of severely disabled combat veterans of the Great War. Upon seeing the faces and hearing the personal testimonies of disabled veterans, members of Congress urgently went to work on the American Legion's top priority. Within days, lawmakers amended legislation that had already been introduced and increased compensation for 100% disabled combat veterans to $80 per month. It passed before Christmas.
Real people, real issues, real advocacy. The American Legion's growing influence at the community and state level made it a force that Washington could not ignore. The battle to write and pass the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944 is a prime example of the Legion's unique ability to personalize a problem. In November of 1943, more than 75,000 disabled veterans a month were returning to their hometowns, drastically changed by World War II. Hundreds of bills were languishing in Congress to address the problem, but few of them were really going anywhere.
To make the Legion's case, National Commander Warren Atherton called upon the organization's service officers to send in testimonials from veterans who had come home to find their only support from their families, churches, and Legion posts. Within 24 hours, Atherton received 1,536 case studies. He delivered their voices and faces before Congress, one case at a time. The Legion made it personal.
American Legion past National Commander Harry W. Colmary, who had led the campaign to protect veterans' benefits from Economy Act cuts a decade earlier, is credited with assembling and writing into legislation the 10 planks that would form the GI Bill. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, the GI Bill of Rights, which went on to change America and the world.
If you're looking for an example of the American Legion's founding mission to strengthen America, nothing compares to the GI Bill. The Legion's approach of putting faces on problems was repeated many times and continues so in the decades that followed the GI Bill's passage.
In the late 1970s, it became clear to the American Legion that Vietnam War veterans were suffering from specific cancers and other conditions attributable to their exposure to the toxic defoliant Agent Orange.
They needed to be treated. They needed to be compensated for the disabilities that they were developing as a result of this.
The Legion went to its members and produced definitive proof, one veteran's case study after another, working with Columbia University epidemiologists Gene and Stephen Stellman on a survey that disproved the federal government's findings. The Legion eventually sued the federal government to gain acceptance of Agent Orange as the cause of service-connected disabilities, a battle that would continue for years to come. Also at that time, the long-known issue of mental illness caused by military trauma was not yet accepted by the psychological community or the VA.
The American Legion has been personally helping veterans suffering from head injuries and mental health conditions since the doughboys came home from the Great War with what was then called shell shock. But it took 60 years and unbridled persistence from the American Legion for PTSD to become recognized as a service-connected diagnosis by the VA. The Vietnam generation shed light on the struggles that families endure when their lives are upended by combat PTSD.
Personal American Legion testimonies and big membership numbers would later be used in the fight to improve access to VA healthcare in the I Am Not a Number campaign of 2003 and 2004. At the time, hundreds of thousands of veterans across the country were waiting 30 days or longer to see their VA healthcare providers. The case studies set in motion the ongoing System Worth Saving program. Legionnaires personally visit VA healthcare facilities, meet with staff, leadership, and patients to identify the problems and needs of VA healthcare.
With great sadness that I call for the resignations of Secretary Shinseki, Undersecretary of Health Robert Petzel, and Undersecretary of Benefits Allison Hickey.
In 2014, when a scandal rocked VA after it was discovered that veterans were dying waiting for appointments that were never really scheduled, the American Legion went on the road to collect personal testimonials and provide face-to-face help. Town hall meetings and crisis command centers in VA communities throughout the country put human voices behind the problem and led to legislative changes to reform VA healthcare from the top down.
The Legion brought the case of the veterans to the government, putting faces on the problems, backed by a strong, passionate, and influential membership.
Veterans serving veterans, devoted to mutual helpfulness, making America stronger, case by case.